Hi, so I'm Oscar, and I'm going to be, well, I'll wait for the slide to start. I'm going to be unpacking the link between virtue and labor in Western society, because I think it's important to consider the social significance of work if we're to make decisions about the future, as work gradually becomes more and more under fire, as we all know. So for 2.5 million years, we were hunter-gatherers. People ate rich, varied diets, and they had plenty of free time. A recent study said that hunter-gatherers worked half what industrial workers do. They worked 3 hours a day. It's nothing, right? And they ate better than we do. And then less than 10,000 years ago was the agricultural revolution. We became a slave to the development of wheat and livestock. People committed themselves to backbreaking work for incrementally better yields. This was the birth of work, basically, as we know it. So it's a tiny fraction of the history. And compared to modern standards, the work was hard, but it was also, the family was around, and there was play during the day, and work was reduced to when there was light and when the weather was permitting. So in 1700 France, people had 160 days off of either festivals or where the weather wouldn't allow them to work. So our modern idea of work is quite perverse. Basically, labor was not the measure of a person. If money was good, then people would work less. You'd spend more time with your family, and you wouldn't save and work harder for a rainy day. It was all until industrialization happened, when people became focused in the factories and artificial lighting came in, so that people worked longer hours throughout the day and throughout the year, and men became detached from the family, and all sorts of problems arose. So affording this change was kind of our shift to Protestantism, which kind of underpinned the intensification of work. New religious sects like Calvinism came in, which basically said your fate was predetermined and all you could do in your life was mess that up. So people started to work incredibly hard. This linked wealth and religion, and people began to work around the clock, save money to give their family a better chance. And this is kind of the beginning of, this is where our relationship to work kind of still links back to, I think. So the virtue of labor and the stigma of laziness are obviously incredibly powerful incentives for people to be productive. You know, it gets people to work more than they economically necessarily need to, and it keeps a constant supply of labor. For example, in many jobs in the Western world, working for minimum wage is actually only nominally better than government welfare. Obviously, it's gotten a whole lot worse recently, but you only get £62 more a week disposable income for working a 40-hour job. So obviously there's more to work than just its economic value, because otherwise people wouldn't still be doing these jobs. There wouldn't be such a demand. And we're seeing the impact of this with people like Trump. People want their jobs back. They don't want money as a handout. Trump is basically a guarantee of the promise that, something's happened. Our connection to work is almost comical, really, but it's understandable. You know, people have dedicated themselves for 10,000 years to finally work less, and now that it's happened, we don't know what to do with ourselves, and that's the kind of irony of it all. It's a sad irony. So is work simply natural? Will the future of worklessness, as we perceive it, destroy people's self-worth and lead to the kind of nightmare that people say that it will? Well, I don't think it will. Coupling virtue with labor was a necessary factor for progress, but we've reached a point of efficiency where most people don't actually need to work. So what we really need is a new way to see people beyond their productivity. We need to go beyond that because, productivity is no longer needed. And even without economic support, there's encouraging evidence coming out to suggest that this is already happening. Some have already made the change to accepting a post-wage mindset or post-work. For example, Youngstown in Ohio, where since 1977, the main employer in the city has gone bust, so nobody's had a job. And yeah, when few people work in a community, people kind of regain their self-worth. People are poor, but unlike other Rust Belt cities, they've kind of pulled together their community and they've built a kind of thriving economy, and people are believing in themselves once again. So what really holds back kind of socially accepting worklessness is still our kind of fear of people becoming lazy, which I don't think we can still allow ourselves to have. I think it's a redundant social ill from a time which needed workers, which we don't anymore. I think in the future, people won't see a difference in virtue between spending all day playing computer games and working in a grocery shop. And in history, you know, we've seen ample signs to show that productivity, when you're free from work and the stigma of worklessness, is incredibly positive. Some of the greatest minds of the 17th and 18th and 19th century were lucky enough to be liberated from the need to work by inherited wealth. So let's destigmatize unemployment. Some will be productive, some will be lazy, but we can't judge them because judgment has proved too costly already. And yeah, let's not go down that road. Thank you.